What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Week 13 edition of NBC Sports' College Football Betting Q&A. It's Eric Froton and Vaughn Dalzell. Happy Black Friday to everybody checking in before you go shopping, hitting people with your carts and all that. Eric, how was your Thanksgiving? Who'd you spend it with and what'd you do, man?
Yeah, I was hanging out with my parents, of course, and the Egg Bowl, naturally. A tradition for Thanksgiving unlike any other. I mean, obviously there's 3 NFL games, but there's only one game that we care about here on the NBC Sports College Football Podcast, and that was the Egg Bowl. And managed to cash the under on Ladeatrick Griffin. However, Will Rogers squeaked over his 197.5 passing yardage under. So I went for a split yesterday. We'll take it.
Okay, not too bad. Yeah, I had a 2-in-1 day in the NFL myself. Didn't do college football or college basketball. Wish I would have, but yeah, it was a good day. I spent it with my family. Went to my grandma's, who I call Mamaw, and had all the traditional foods, and it was definitely a good time. Made fun of all my uncles, cousins, brother, all that good stuff like that, Eric. So happy to be here, though. We got Friday and Saturday college football today, so we have a lot of plays to go over, the full entire slate. It's just
grand finale. This is how they do it. At least they give us a full 3 straight days of impactful games. We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, and next week we'll have Brad Thomas back, who we're excited to have back next week for championship week. So Brad, hope you're doing well. I know you're watching. Eric, where should we start today? We usually start with ladders and sprinkles, or do you want to hop into the Black Friday games?
I kind of like the Black Friday games. Maybe I'm a little partial to that.
Yeah, me too. Let's go. Let's start it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, my friend. All right, let's go TCU, Oklahoma. Now, with Oklahoma, obviously we have some conjecture regarding the availability of Dylan Gabriel. From what I hear in the early going, since this is a Friday noon kick, that he is out there throwing the ball. I guess he's throwing the ball to Jackson Arnold, and then Jackson Arnold, who's throwing it back, is throwing it to a receiver next to him for whatever reason. But he's out there throwing. I would assume he's probably going to play. But a play that I gave out on my column, Jaleel Farouk, wide receiver, he's listed at 66.5 receiving yards. I've actually seen him pulled down at a couple different books. If you can still get that, as well as his – probably the better line is his under 0.5 touchdowns. He's only got 2 touchdown receptions all season through 11 games. So I would take a look and see if you can get that. Take it. Reason why is because he was banged up last week. The very last catch of the game, a first down catch to seal it, he took a big shot and is considered questionable to play. Even if he does, he is legitimately banged up. I would look at taking his unders, especially that touchdown look. Also, another one I put out, Josh Hoover, quarterback for TCU, listed at 22.5 completions. He has crossed that 23 plus in every single one of his games that he started this year in relief for Chandler Morris. He is expected to get the start, play a full game against Oklahoma, and with them, chances are going to be in a trailing script. I like that as well.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't talk you off the Hoover play. I think that's a good way of playing this one. Obviously, total sitting at 63.5 here. And TCU at Oklahoma. And I think I got the news from the Whale Capper on Bet the Edge that Dylan Gabriel could be out. And he's hearing that likely he's going to give it a go. But if he's not good, they'll have someone ready to go backing him up today, which makes me lean TCU plus the 9 and the money line, of course, for a sprinkle today. I do think, this may be a better live bet spot because there's a good chance Oklahoma will still score points on TCU's defense, Eric. We know a lot of teams can do that. So I definitely think a live bet position here is probably the best angle if you're playing the spread. But for plus 260, I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle that and add that to the column today because I've been struggling, but we're trying to start Black Friday off pretty special. How do you think? You think TCU can win this game, or do you think Oklahoma's got in the bag?
TCU could be live, sure, and they're playing for bowl eligibility, always a factor. But Oklahoma has motivation too, where they're looking to get a spot in the Big 12 championship game. So they have to win in order to still be alive. Obviously, it's hard to not lean Oklahoma to win, but gosh, with 9 points, hey, if that's where you're going with, Vaughn, then that's where you're going with, buddy. Best of luck.
All right, yeah. No roast beef sandwich there, but any
roast beef
opinion
sandwich
on
there? Not ready just
yet.
yet.
We might on the next game. But before we get Yeah, before we get there though, we got a question in the chat for you. Sal wants to know any opinion on Stoops today.
Stoops today. Well, again,
Jake
as we
Stoops.
talked about with the QBs, if we have Jackson Arnold in there instead of Dylan Gabriel, I would lean heavy unders. In fact, we've seen the Stoops as well as the Farouk and Nick Anderson line steadily tick down over the course of the week. And specifically, I would say Stoops has probably seen the most downward movement. He started, I want to say, around like 87.5. I'm looking here on Bet Rivers. He's at 79.5 on that. So it's been, he'd been above 80 all week. Just this morning, we've seen it kind of dip under that 80 mark. Farouk was at 66.5. He's now at 62.5 from what I'm seeing. Steady tick downward based on the availability status of Gabriel. And if he's out, I would say you have to go under on Stoops.
Yeah, total agreement here. I think that just watch and go in the next 40 minutes. We're going to definitely get some news on Dylan Gabriel, so we'll be updating as we go on that. Let's do the rest booth possibility bet. It's Iowa and Nebraska. Cornhuskers 2.5-point favorites. Total's 24.5 now at MGM. Other shots.
Wow.
Give it to me. Eric, I did play the under 25.5 yesterday. Yeah, I did. And I'm excited. I still think 24.5. I think those are all. 24 is a key number now. If we're talking key numbers, 24 is actually a key number. 23 would be a key number here too for a 13-10 game. The team totals are set at 10.5 and 13.5. And I think that Nebraska is also going to win this game, Eric. For some reason, I didn't make the graphic yet, so I'm going to do it as we speak. But I think that with the bowl eligibility, 5-6 Nebraska Cornhuskers at home, favored against Iowa, who's on the road, has no reason to win this game with a Big Ten game on deck, Michigan, Ohio State. This is a great spot for Matt Rule to have success in his first season and get bowl eligible. Give me the Cornhuskers on the money line and give me the under. I'm kicking off Black Friday sweaty fashion.
Yeah, you're not playing games with your Nebraska, and they're even favored by 2.5 points. You're even laying points to take.
We'll take the money line. We'll take the money line.
Vaunted Iowa Hawkeyes. How can you possibly go against them? If you won, I'll beef it with you. Well, if we're beefing and we're beefing today, I will take Iowa. You give me those 2.5 points.
All right. Can I have the money line? Can I have the money line? Because I don't want I don't want to take them 2.5 minus.
How do we roast beef a money line? How does that work? Do I get 1.5 beefs if I win? What?
That's a good question.
That's what I'm saying. I want my points.
I think about that. All right, I'll take it minus 2.5 versus you. Official picks money line for me, but I'll go minus 2.5 just for you, Eric, because I do want to beat you today. All right, what do you think about the total, and what do you think about any props in this game? One of our guys in the chat, Brian Hamilton, says, "Would you take the over in Iowa, Nebraska?" Absolutely not.
I would.
Would you?
I would take the over. 24.5. I'm just at the point where a 13 to 12. Like we had a 12-10 last a few weeks ago with Minnesota and Iowa. I mean, come on. They have to be able to clear 24.5. You're taunting me at that point. I can't help it. I can't take that under. I just can't. It's too little. It's the lowest of all time.
Not me. We'll be on the Army and Navy under in no time. We'll see how low that one goes. But you said the best way, Eric. Iowa is really the version of limbo. How low can we go? And I bet I'm going to go lower than anyone else on the planet. So we're still going under on Iowa.
We're going low. I mean, it's low. I do have an over. So I guess that would make 2 overs since I'm leaning over here. Our boy, Ostrenga, the stranger. Last 2 weeks, we've had Ostrenga in terms of his over, since he has clearly taken over the tight end 1 role there at Iowa. And that's what they do, is they throw the TE1. He opened up at 17.5 receiving yards this week, got on it right away. He's quickly gone up 4 yards after the initial open to 21.5. Again, I still think that's a great deal. He's gone over that each of the last 2 weeks. I don't think you're going to have a problem with him getting 4, maybe 5 receptions, since that is the dump off. He just goes, Y option, turn around, get it, bang, bang, bang. That has been as right as rain. This is the last week of the regular season, and pouring a little something out for the overs of the Iowa tight end positions. The only over you can take with Iowa that you can rely upon all season. So big ups to Eric All and to Strenga. Overs all day long for that tight end position. Love it.
Yeah, that's the only way you're getting over. Well, Deacon Hill did hit his over last week, Eric. Sorry to bring that up.
He hit his over.
I'm not
messing with him this week.
Yeah,
lay off.
I think you should, though. I mean, I think you should get your money back on him because, on the road, Iowa's been terrible. 8.3 points per game in their last 3 road games. But they've only held opponents to like 9.7, I think it is. So, we know how those games are going to go. Let's head over to another game, Eric. Do you want to do Texas Tech, Texas, or you want to do Oregon State, Oregon?
I mean, we're going to do both of them eventually. So we'll go with Texas Tech, Texas, since they're first, I would assume. And with this game, I have a lean that I'm pretty excited about, frankly. Quinn Ewers, he is listed at 21.5 pass completions, right, for this particular game. Now, obviously, we're playing Texas Tech, one of the top 10 teams in terms of pace of play, in terms of plays per second. They rip like a play every 21 seconds. But with our boy Ewers, in terms of the accuracy, in terms of the volume of passes, he's thrown at least 33 passes in 4 of his last 5 games. So in terms of the completions, he's gone over the completions every single week of the past 5 weeks. The only time he hasn't gone over this 21.5 was September 23rd against Baylor, where he only threw 28 passes because they were blowing him out 38-6. I don't think we see a script where Texas just absolutely destroys Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech will at least be able to hang around and make it relevant. With him crossing the 21.5 completions threshold in each of his last 5 games, I mean, I just think that Quinn Ewers over 21.5 is an auto play. Give me that.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can't talk with the percentages on the year. Can't argue with that. I would say, are you at all worried that if they're up in the 4th quarter, they would sit him at all in order to possibly make college football playoff?
I suppose you could. It would have to be quite a blowout, though. I think you'd have to be in that Baylor 38-6 sort of a comp. You'd have to be in that range, I think, to especially, I mean, look you have a playoff berth on the line, and with Ewers obviously being the guy to run the show when he's been healthy, I don't see a reason why they'd sit him unless the game is completely out of hand. And frankly, they haven't been blowing teams out. Even Kansas, 5 games ago, they beat him 40-14. He still threw 35 passes, completed 25. And that was his highest completion total for the entire year. So I would think they're probably not going to keep their foot off the gas because style points do matter as we get this close when we're talking about the CFP
That's true.
playoff.
Yeah, no, that is true. Style points do matter. I don't know if they really will matter, to be honest, for Texas as much. Like I don't think the Longhorns have a chance really to make the college football playoff.
Well, they could use an Alabama win over Georgia. Let's be honest there, to give him that head-to-head. But yeah, the path is narrow. And
a Florida win today or tomorrow.
Florida win today would be huge. An Oregon win. I mean, just as much chaos as Texas can get, that's what they want.
Yeah, speaking of Oregon, they're the next team on our slate to talk about here. Oregon State obviously let us down last week. Got to apologize for that one. I don't know how you hold the Huskies scoreless in the second half and you don't come away with a victory there. But anytime you're as someone who's bet now for 6-7 years, I have noticed, Eric, when a team that you don't need to win scores with a minute left in the first half, you're probably going to be burned. You got to make those stops. And when Penix got that touchdown for the end of the first half, I kind of figured Oregon State was going to have to fight extra hard. Now they're going here to Oregon. Bo Nix actually has the most career starts in NCAA history at 58, the Heisman favorite. I think the Ducks can hit this game. I think they can win this game. The way that I looked at it, and it's not an official play, but if everything goes right as rain tonight, then maybe we will make an official play. But I do think Oregon can get out to an early lead in this game, Eric, at home. First half, it was 7. I would really like this, 7.5. You don't get the best of the number here because now you need 2 scores. But there's no reason why the Ducks don't get out to a 10-plus point lead, in my opinion, with Oregon State kind of all the air got let out of them. Now, this is a rivalry game, so that's what they have going for them. So what's your opinion on Oregon State?
Yeah, obviously this game is pivotal, and Oregon State would like nothing more than to spoil Oregon's party right before the Pac-12 championship game. Of course, I mean, it's hard not to lean with Oregon at Eugene. I mean, Oregon, I think the number might be a little high, like that 13.5 that we're looking at here. Oregon State has played teams close all year long. I mean, even when they get beat, they're not out there getting embarrassed. I kind of lean, if we're on the points front, I kind of lean Oregon State, getting the almost 2 touchdowns, frankly, given the running / defensive oriented sort of a game that they play, where Oregon is at their best when they're snuffing out opposing pass offenses, just absolutely taking all the air out of the ball. But that's not going to affect Oregon State as much with Damian Martinez and their power run game, him and Fenwick.
Let me ask you this real quick. What's the better underdog bet then here? Would it be Oregon State to cover or upset against Oregon, or would it be Washington State to cover or upset against Washington? Because we know the Cougars also 5-6.
Oregon State, give me Oregon State. I know we've been waiting for the other shoe to drop with Washington, but I don't think it'll happen here. They made it through the Utah, Oregon State, USC portion of their schedule. I couldn't imagine they go and dump one to Wazoo. But hey, strange things happen. But if there's a play in this game that I do like, it's Marquise Irving, running back for Oregon. He's been the lead dog all season, dating back to last year. The clear alpha back, especially with Noah Whittington injured, he's the one. When it comes to his all-purpose skills, he catches passes out of the backfield. He's probably the best in the country when it comes to this, to be honest, when it comes to, out of the backfield potency. In his last 7 games, he has caught at least 3 passes in every single one. Over his last 6, he has cleared his 30.5 receiving yardage mark in 5 of them. Most of them pretty comfortably. Most of them, he's catching 4 passes on 3 of his last 4 games. He is a legitimate weapon, game planned out of the backfield to get him touches to take advantage of his dynamicism. Against Oregon State, need this win. Have to pull out all the stops. I like his over for receiving yardage, Marquise Irving.
All right, and I can rock with that one too. I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I also, geez, and I think of it. I also like Tez Johnson's over too. 63.5. He had actually started out like 69.5. He was up around 70 to start the week. It has trickled down. I think that's an overcorrection. This is Bo Nix's adopted brother, Tez Johnson. Like, those two have a mind meld with each other, and I would think that in a game of this magnitude, he will get at least 7-8 targets, which means 63.5 is a very attainable number.
Yeah, I expect this game to be somewhat competitive for a while before I think Oregon, someone pulls away. But I'm with you there. I love Tez. He's been so fun to watch, and obviously I've been pulling for Bo Nix the past couple of weeks. So, that's my guy. I rock with you there, Eric. I think you got 2-0 on your card.
We'll see what happens. Couple overs.
Yeah, if somehow this is competitive, I think Oregon will be in a great live bet spot tonight, because I don't think they lose.
I think it's competitive. I feel like it'll be a competitive game. Maybe I'll be wrong about in boat racing, but I do think it plays close.
Well, I know one game you don't think competitive is going to be the NBC game on Peacock. Penn State's now laying 22.5. We were joking on YouTube the other day because I said, maybe Michigan State plus 20.5, plus 21 might be a look here. And you said, no, you're crazy. And now it's out to 22.5. Any opinion on this one? For me, it's, Penn State, what's the motivation to go in here and absolutely smack down Michigan State? You're going to be looking towards a bowl game right after this. You're not in the Big Ten championship. For Michigan State, they played much better the last 3 weeks. They got 2 wins on their schedule. They did get smacked by Ohio State, but, we expected that to happen. So I look at Michigan State and say, hey, at least you're playing the best football this season. You're inspired. Some of these guys are looking towards getting the playing time that they haven't got. And for Penn State, you've had a lot of commotion. Injured quarterback, fired your OC, lost to the best teams. Seems like Michigan State motivation spot here, but 22.5 is a lot, Eric.
Well, that's great that Michigan State is motivated. I'm very proud of them. But that being said, this is the team that ranks second to last in the country in terms of points per game. They're averaging 13.5 points per game. Second half out of 133 teams, they're 132. I mean, terrible. Yards per play, they're 126. They're averaging 4.5 yards per play. I mean, this is EPA per play, 127. So they're at these key metrics, including, how many points you scored. They're one of the worst teams in the entire country, not even the Power Five, the whole country, Michigan State. They've been rotating quarterbacks all year long. We don't know what to expect with that. I mean, you have Nathan Carter was pretty good in the early season, but they haven't been able to really run the ball that effectively over the past few weeks as well. And now they got to go and host Penn State at a neutral site game. So they don't even have the benefit of having a true home crowd because they're at Ford Field, and you'll get some of the Penn State fandom there traveling. Oof. I mean, I have a hard time. I mean, this is kind of a stay away for me. I don't really have a lean. I understand why you're leaning Michigan State, but man, you got to have a stomach of cast iron to believe in this Michigan State team laying the points. Bless you, Vaughn. I'm rooting for you, buddy, but I can't go the same direction that you are with this.
Yeah. Well, I definitely say it's a lean, something I'm looking at, but I mean, I feel more comfortable playing.
Drew Aller banged up too last week. That's a factor.
Let me say this to everyone watching. I feel more confident in taking Iowa, Nebraska under 24 than I do in taking Michigan State plus 22.5. But I do think Michigan State plus 22 has an angle of attacking, especially we know Drew Aller is expected to play. James Franklin did say that. If not, Bo, I think Primula is how you say his last name, but he didn't look too bad in the fourth quarter. He got some legs on him. So if Drew Allar's banged up, or he might be, do you think that this question from Jason K, which is very valid, is a good bet, Drew Aller under rushing yards?
Yeah, I mean, if he plays, sure. I mean, why do you want to go and put yourself into harm's way? Get Aller all banged up when you're heading into a potential, one of the premium bowls. So they do have something at stake. Like they're ranked number 11 in the country. They have a New Year's Six sort of potential. So they want to go and look good when they do this. But like you're saying, why would you bother running Drew Aller today? I would think there would be no design runs. It would be just pretty much scrambles, which, I mean, if he's getting pressured and he takes one sack, I think this is pretty much out of the range. If he takes 1 6-yard sack, he's probably not going to hit that rushing yardage. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that under.
No, I was going to say it's a situation where I think he could hit this 18 plus on 2 runs, but he could also get sacked twice, and it'd be the easiest bet you place all day.
Yeah. And is he going to be particularly mobile? After getting banged up last night, who knows?
Probably won't be mobile there. Yeah, so I do like that play, Jason. I think the under is the way to go if you're playing any props on Drew Aller. So Eric, you don't have any official plays in that game. Should we head to the best bets?
Don't have any official plays. No.
You know what's really disappointing, man? I've been talking a lot of smack all year about the best bets because, I've been smacking you and Brad up, you know what I'm saying? But
good.
Percentage-wise, now you're beating me because I went 1-1 last week. So now it's 69% for you and 67% for me. So I kind of got irritated this morning when I did the math, and I'm like, I got to beat Eric today. So technically, you go first today, Eric. What's the best bet?
I'll go first. Hell yeah, 9-4. We'll take that. We'll take a little 9-4 action. In fact, I started out like 0-3. I want to say on my best bets. I had a horrible opening to my best bets, so I'm like 9-8-1 over the course of the past several weeks. So I'm okay with that. Hoping to get another one here, where there are rumors floating around that Utah, their quarterback Bryson Barnes, is dinged up and is rumored to possibly not be playing, which is important, even against Colorado, because their backup, Nate Johnson, he is out. He's in the portal. He's left the team. So you have literally a 4th-string quarterback who will be, if it is the case where Bryson Barnes is not under center, you got a 4th stringer there. And I would think with Colorado's absolutely appalling run defense, that Utah is going to run a 2 running back tandem behind Jaquindon Jackson and Sione Vaki and go absolutely to the wall, smashing this Colorado run defense. I don't understand, like, why would you even need to put the ball in the air given the deficiencies we've seen? 122nd in terms of their run defense, for Colorado, 127th in success rate, 125th in EPA per play. I mean, this is a horrific, just a probably the worst defensive line in the Power Five. I don't think that's really a particularly hot take. Give me Devon Vele in honor of our Devon. Devon Vele, wide receiver, Utah versus Colorado on ESPN Bet. It is under 80.5 yards. Still there at even money. I've seen that at minus 142 in order to get this under 80.5. The word's starting to get out that, you might not be able to get this bet much longer. I would be all over it. If you wanted to spray the board and go grab Money Parks, if you wanted to park your money in Money Parks under at 24.5, I think you even got to kick that around too. But definitely at 80.5 receiving yards with Vele with a heavy run script. I'm going with it. Give me the under.
I like it. I think I have one right here, Eric. Hold on one second. I have a hammer, baby.
Oh, you have a hammer?
Go and get it, baby. Wow. Go and get the hammer, baby. Hey, we love it. When I saw Vaughn, I was like, oh, yeah, we got it. Yeah, This is a smacker. But, no, I love the angle of attacker.
Hammer time.
I love this
dance.
play.
Oh.
Whoa.
Straight hammer time.
But, yeah, Colorado is going to get ran all over today. 20.5-point favorite. You should not expect Utah to be throwing the ball for very much in this game. So, yeah, hammer. I love that. You're going 10-4, Eric. And as everyone knows, I'll be at the game this weekend tomorrow, Michigan and Ohio State. I played Michigan's money line, risking 2 units as the best bet. If you're asking why aren't you playing the 3.5? Oh, Eric, here we go. If you're not scared of playing the 3.5, I'm not going to talk you off by any means, but I'm not going to have Michigan win by 3 and me lose this bet in person and have to drive 4.5 hours home and be irritated. That's not happening for me. I think Michigan wins the Big Ten championship. I think Michigan wins the national championship. So I'm taking Michigan to win out from here on every single game they play. And, of course, we'll be laying the points when they beat Iowa by 14, 17 plus. But in this spot, Eric, Michigan, of course, has won 2 straight against Ohio State. The Wolverines' defense has been the best unit in the country all year. Ohio State's number 2, in my opinion. So we have 2 of the best defenses here. I don't trust Ohio State's ground game against Michigan's D-line. 6, 7 different guys you could pick out of that D-line rotation that have 20 combined sacks and 4 or 5 forced fumbles. They are the deepest unit in the entire country when you talk about one unit. So I think the ground game, Corum, Roman Wilson, they'll do justice here. Michigan wins this game. We'll cover more later on this one because you'll have bets. But, yeah, that's my best bet. I know you probably don't like it. I feel like you don't like it.
Hey, what can I say? I'm on Ohio State plus the 3.5. Give me the Buckeyes. I can't help it. So, we are respectfully on 2 other sides. That's fine. Roast beef. There's no saying that
one for Friday and one for Saturday.
Roast beef bet. There can be 2. Absolutely. I have no problem with that. So, yeah, a Friday and a Saturday roast beefer. We're beefing.
I love it. Yes. I love that. Let's do that. And for anyone that's going to come at me and hate for not taking the minus 3.5, I'm already ready for it, bro. Let's go. So let's do the people's parlay, Eric, because we got a Friday, 2 legs for Friday, 1 leg for Saturday. You aren't going to like, maybe you can win, but I'm rocking with Nebraska money line and Michigan money line for our parlay. So you were on Iowa earlier, plus 2.5. I'm taking Nebraska. I just broke down those 2 games. But what do you like about Missouri here taking on Arkansas?
Yeah, well, first off, there's a lot I don't like about Arkansas. That's great that they shuttled Dan Enos mercifully out of that offensive coordinator role with Kenny Guyton. But, we've seen a lot more rushing that's going on with KJ Jefferson as opposed to throwing. But even so, like their offense in terms of efficacy on both fronts, not particularly good. 108th in yards per play, for the offense. 94th in terms of success rate, in terms of their passing and rushing acumen. 97th when they're passing, 97th as well when rushing. So we have some real deficiencies here. for this Arkansas team. Then on the defensive side, I don't trust them to be able to stop the pass or the run. Like, they've been better against the run this year, but God, 8.2 yards per pass, 110th allowed in the country. And you've got Brady Cook, you've got Luther Burden, who in my column I advocated for his over 89.5 receiving yards at the time. It's now up to 93.5. You've seen that tick upwards because when he's healthy, he is crushing it. And that is, again, a ladder play, absolutely where you can get it. He's at a great spot right now. 120 plus, I think, is still there for Luther Burden. Absolutely. So, with the factors that we're looking at here, a potent offense from Missouri. Arkansas struggled game after game after game just to score 20 points. I mean, you're even asking a lot. I just think with that 9, with Missouri rolling, with Arkansas, just trying to tick this season away, Sam Pittman was kept and retained, which is surprising a little bit. Give me Missouri to finish out a strong 2023 campaign. I'll lay the 9.
Yeah, I like that. I see some places already trending towards a 9.5 for Missouri there. So it looks like you're also getting the steam going in your direction. So almost a little bit over 4-1 odds for our people's parlay. I think we've lost 2 straight now. So we got to get back in the bag here and get a win under our belt. I think we can't do that. So just recapping real quick, the best bet segment, Vaughn Dalzell under 80.5 receiving yards for Colorado. Eric said you got that at plus 100, and it's minus 140 now in some other spots. Michigan money line for me as my best bet this week, trying to catch Eric now. And then our people's parlay is Michigan, Nebraska, and Missouri. And of course, we'll recap some of the Friday plays. If you guys want more Friday games to go over, drop them in the chat right now. Let us know. We'll come back to them because we're going to now get into Eric's picks for the biggest game in the college football season, Ohio State at Michigan. I have one more pick in this game, but Eric, I don't agree with one of your props. I think if Ohio State, this is a terrible hot take for me. Not agreeing with Eric on a prop. You think Trayvon Henderson is going to get the rock a lot. I think that could be a losing game script. They're going to have to throw the ball on Michigan. They're going to have to try to throw the ball. So you tell me why you think Trayvon Henderson is going over 17.5 rushing attempts.
Sure, because one, they're not going to be able to just sit back and throw the ball against this Michigan secondary and pass rush. They're going to have to balance this out. All right. I mean, there's no way that I think that there's a path with a one-dimensional game script that you're going to go and beat the Wolverines in Ann Arbor. I mean, forgive me. That's my personal belief, but it dovetails with Trayvon Henderson. Now, we look at what they've done in terms of usage for him this year. They have been trying to make sure that they keep him healthy. Even last week, he ran for 146 yards, 15 carries. And I was on his under carries last week as one of my best, my plays in my columns. But if you look at, the games beforehand, right? Michigan State was 38-3 laugher. There's no need. But in the other games that he's been healthy, they've needed him. He's answered the call, and they're giving him the rock. Rutgers, 35-16, actually competitive game. He got it 22 times. Game before that, at Wisconsin, 24-10. Again, not a complete blowout. There's actually somewhat competitive games. He got 24 carries, goes for $162. I think you're going to see that kind of script. I think he's going to be in the whole game. You'll see maybe in the short yardage situations, you'll see Trainum come out, but you're going to have every play. Ryan Day is going to give everything he's got to beat Michigan after losing them the last 2 times. Like, I sincerely believe he could be playing for his job here. As crazy as that sounds, he could be at Ohio State. You're going to see Trayvon Henderson rode hard, put away wet. I'm going over 17.5 carries for Trayvon.
One comment before a question. I do believe Ryan Day is on a hot seat. You lose this game. That's 3 straight losses to Michigan, and you lost to Michigan without Jim Harbaugh on the sideline. The only way it could get worse is if they were at Ohio State. I do think this is a kitchen sink effort for sure. The question I was going to ask you is, obviously Trayvon's amazing, but you mentioned Trainum, Mayan Williams. No worry about these guys getting, anything more than 3 or 4 carries in this game.
Mayan Williams is injured. He's out for the season, so we will not be seeing Mayan Williams, I guarantee. Dallin Hayden has barely stepped on the field. So it'll just be essentially train him, maybe some Xavier Johnson, who is sort of like a
Yeah.
hybrid wide receiver that they could throw some gadget packages in for Xavier. But yeah, I mean, I just think this is wheels up. It's just straight wheels up. You're getting full metal Trevion this week. So I'm all about that. Also, another potential play, Cornelius Johnson, wide receiver, Michigan, listed at 37.5 receiving yards. Sometimes it's even ticked down a little bit in some places, 35.5. I like the under there. Big reason is, look, we have seen Michigan hasn't been throwing the ball. And a lot of that, you're hearing rumors that potentially J.J. McCarthy is a little banged up, might have a shoulder issue, is what we're hearing. And that's why he threw the ball literally 8 times against Penn State and then just 23 times against Maryland, completing just 12. Completed 52% of his passes against Maryland. That's an issue. I mean, he only threw 141 yards, 60 yards against Penn State. That's a problem. And if that is the case against a drastically improved Ohio State defense, year 2 of Jim Knowles, I just think you're going to see sort of an under type of script. You know, this is listed at 47. I lean under for the game, frankly. That's how these games have been playing for both teams for the most part, as long as you got somebody who has at least a, passable defense. So with that, I think you're just going to see as much Corum and Donovan Edwards as they can possibly throw at Ohio State. If they don't have to throw, they're not going to. They're going to use the run to set up the pass. Mm-hmm. With that in mind, Cornelius Johnson is the third option in this wide receiver room. Roman Wilson, he's banged up a little bit last week. I'm very confident he plays. I couldn't imagine him sitting out at this. And then the Colson, Loveland, AJ Barner, tandem, where their tight ends get a lot of work. He's the third option, 35.5 receiving yards. I just think a lot has to happen for Cornelius Johnson to hit this mark. With the rumors of an impaired, JJ McCarthy, I'm sorry. I feel the under here on Cornelius Johnson, and I'm going to back it and go that direction. So here we are. It's happened 4 of the last 5 games. I think it's going to happen 5 of the last 6, under 35.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't want to get. They're gonna I think the most important thing you said there is they're gonna run as much as they can to step the pass. That's true. And yeah, no, absolutely, that's Michigan's game plan. And we have to also remember that this is not Jim Harbaugh now. Being coaching this team and during the game, this is an assistant coach that's been stepping in here. So of course,
an offensive line coach at that.
Yeah, and that's why we see the running. So and that's why that's why when you say 12 of 23, I'm not really too scared of that, because I'm like, again, some of these plays, I watch it. Why are they running this type of play against Maryland? But they had that game of control until Maryland had their few little plays to get back, and there was 23-3 at one point. And for my other play in this game, of course, I'm going to go in the team total under. We're not going to stop. Got Ohio State under 21.5 on FanDuel. I agree with Eric saying this is going to be an under game in general. I think the 46.5 is probably too high. I think Michigan's team total under is probably a good bet as well, because similar to what you and Brad saw at Notre Dame and Ohio State, that game, I think we see a similar game where it's coming down to the final 1 or 2 possessions. We see these teams struggle to get to 20 points. First one to get to 20 likely wins in this matchup. And both quarterbacks, probably the worst quarterback matchup we've had in 3, 4, 5 years of Michigan versus Ohio State, if we're being completely honest. So, I like the Ohio State team total under 21.5 and Michigan money line. And Eric likes Cornelius Johnson under receiving yards, in addition to Travion Henderson over 17.5 rushing attempts.
Of course.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next, Eric?
Well, let's go to one of our true All-Americans. We've talked about him week in, week. We're gonna talk about him again. One of my absolute favorite unders of the season. Thank you for all you have done for my bankroll, for Vaughn's bankroll, for everybody who watches this show's bankroll. Tavion Robinson, wide receiver, Kentucky. Player props, All-American. He's out there at 37.5 receiving yards. Again, fine. They're playing at Louisville, the vaunted Louisville defense. You expect Kentucky to be just slinging the ball around all over the place? Devin Leary? Are you kidding me? Dennis Leary's illegitimate nephew? I just can't do it. So, I mean, easy under for Tavion Robinson. And I'm also going to back the under 205.5 is right around where it's at for Devin Leary. Man, I swear, he crossing the 200-yard mark. He has done it exactly once in the last 7 games. And that was a 372-yard absolute nuclear explosion against Tennessee. Other than that, 69, 128, 120, 158, 156, 171. He isn't even sniffing the 200-yard mark. And now you're going to go up against, a pass defense in Louisville that has been absolutely impenetrable this season, in terms of in their pass rush as well. Good luck. Good luck, Kentucky. Give me the double under on that passing attack.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement there too. Louisville has been so surprising. I mean, they've been another team I've been waiting to fall off, drop a game, not live up to the hype. And now it looks like they could be ACC champions with a quarterback injury to Jordan Travis of Florida State, which we're going to talk about Florida State and Florida here shortly. But I want to hop into another Big Ten game that I got to bet in. I did play a line at +2.5 on the home underdog here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I want the 3, Eric, because obviously a 3 is going to be important in a low-scoring Big Ten game between these two. But the Gophers need a win for bowl eligibility. Wisconsin's now bowl eligible. PJ Fleck may be a guy on the hot seat after this year. He was a guy, 8, 9 wins consistently for 3-4 seasons. And now they may miss a bowl game. Quarterback position has been lackluster, but luckily for them, Wisconsin has been one of the worst offenses in all of college football. They did get Tanner Mordecai back, but honestly, in those 2 games, unimpressive in a lot of ways. So I still think Minnesota's live to win this game outright. They're going to be in the money line sprinkle segment. But I think the Gophers at +3 is a great bet. But if I want to get +100 at +2, I'll likely take that because I think they win, Eric.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't blame you. The motivation's certainly on their side. As we sort of discussed, they have to win to get to a bowl here for Minnesota. I do think that, PJ Fleck's going to have a pretty long leash, I would think there. He's been a good culture. Around. He's been pretty damn good. Jerry Kill was good before him. Unfortunately, the medical issue is why he's now there at New Mexico State and just upset Auburn. So, look, Minnesota does a heck of a job picking their coaches. I really can't. Got a lot of respect for how they're doing things. So, hey, if that's what you want, that's cool. I wish I could give out a prop here. There's very little to give out on this game. I really felt comfortable with. So, if you're an Ethan Kaliak-Manis, if you're a fan of the Greek gunslinger there, perhaps the 172.5 is to your liking. I don't have the stones for that. So that's no prop plays in that one. However, we'll go over to Texas A&M at number 14 LSU, 11.5 point spread with a 66.5 total. The last time this regular season, we'll have a bowl game, but the last time this regular season, we're going to get to bet on Jaden Daniels, right?
Yeah,
and with
true.
Daniels going for the Heisman, he's one of the top 3. He's arguably the favorite now after Vaughn erroneously tried to pick Bo Nix last week when Jaden Daniels was 4-1 odds. I don't know why you were taking that in our little video play here.
Is Jaden Daniels the favorite now? Is that what you just said?
He's pretty close. He's up there. He's very close. But with him being the favorite, look, he should be the favorite because he's the only guy who is a made man. You still need a Heisman moment out of Nix, out of Penix. We still have to see what happens in that Pac-12 championship game. If one of them loses, they're out. Jaden Daniels has a treasure chest of Heisman moments. And with his rushing yardage listed at 78.5 yards, in his last chance to make an impression for the Heisman voters before bowl season, since they will not be going to the SEC championship game, give me Jaden Daniels over 78.5 rushing yards. I think he crushes that line against A&M. And even if you can get yourself a ladder, I'd probably even tease it up to 100. I think he goes over 100. I think he goes nuclear. We're going to see a fitting season finale out of Jaden Daniels, and that's an over you want to be a part of.
If Daniels does win Heisman, I'm definitely going to be clipping the moment when I found out that Bo Nix is not the favorite anymore. Because I'm like, when did this happen the past 4 or 5 days?
Favorite.
But
It's
yeah, no,
close.
you're right. Daniels is minus 115. Nix is plus 130.
It was
Penix plus
4-1 last
600.
week, or like 365, plus 365 or so for
Yeah.
Daniels. It's like, what?
Your
So
original pick, Marvin Harrison, was getting a lot of steam. Now he's plus 4,000. So his whole
yeah,
season depends
probably not
on
happening. Yeah.
going off against Michigan. Yeah. Well, I mean, I like this play is definitely an incentive then to definitely hop on Daniels. I like that a lot then. Where do you want to go next? I did want to ask you, what's Tanner Mordecai's passing prop in the Minnesota-Wisconsin game? Because he hasn't played a road game since September 22nd.
I hadn't even seen a prop out for him. That's what I'm saying. Like the
Okay.
props for that game are pretty tough because you have injuries to the running back room of Minnesota, obviously. And then you have just Wisconsin. Like who knows who you're getting out of Mordecai at this point. You're not even getting a line from him. Same thing with Gabriel. Like you don't get a line for Dylan Gabriel because of potential injuries. So I haven't seen anything for it, unfortunately. Okay. However, we do have the Iron Bowl coming up.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. I strongly considered going to that game, but Alabama favored by 13.5, 48.5 point total. As we know, Auburn went out and got emasculated by New Mexico State last week, 31-10.
Yeah.
Just embarrassed this putrid Auburn team. I have a play here. I have two of them. I think we get a ground-based attack a little bit. That's how I'm kind of seeing the script. I am going over 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns on Jalen Milroe. We've seen him in the second half of the season just take over and show his running chops. And he's pretty much unstoppable. When he goes and steps up in the pocket and he sees room, like it's on. He's going and you're not going to stop him. Finally, the first half of the season, it's like Alabama didn't want to take the shackles off of him, didn't want to let him go and create on the ground. And he has been. And it's changed the dynamic of that offense. I think he punches in a touchdown. I'm usually a little apprehensive about doing the touchdown props. But man, I think this is a ground-based game. Milroe gets a rushing touchdown. And I also like the under for his wide receiver, Isaiah Bond. He is listed at 48.5 yards. He's pretty much going to have to catch a bomb at that sort of a rate. Because if we look at what Bond has done, at least the past 2 weeks, it's been a really low ADOT lately. 23 yards, last week, 24 yards against Kentucky. It's just sort of been the up and the down where we don't know what we're getting out of him. I think we get, again, game script wise, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't just bowl over that Auburn team. I think you get a heavy run script. I don't think they're going to need to be in a pass situation because I don't see Auburn being up at all here. I just see them kind of looking forward to next week. Get up, handle business, and then salt this game away and get on to Atlanta for the SEC championship against Georgia.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I was pretty mixed up on how I wanted to approach this game because, as someone who's joked multiple times, I'm not a good Alabama bettor, but I've won the last 2 Bama bets, and I was like, I wouldn't even think about laying the points with Alabama here, Eric, because this seems like a total game where Auburn backdoors if they cover this game. Like Auburn wants to play hard. The fact that it's not more than 13.5 is weird to me since they just lost the previous game. But when you get caught up in these look-ahead spots, that can inflate or move lines a lot. So I'm staying off this game completely. I like your Milroe play a lot. I agree. I think touchdown props are too hard to play with significant amount of money, but I think Milroe's a pretty safe bet. I want to go over to a game where I got a money line sprinkle in Florida State, Florida. I'm going to take the home dog, Eric, and the Gators. Now is the time for Florida to make a bowl game. Now is the time for Florida State to lose a game. We've seen them drop back not only in our rankings for you and I for NBC, but also all the other rankings in the AP and college football playoff. The Gators have won the last 2 at home against Florida State, 2 of the last 3 overall, losing 7 points last year. So they have experience. And now we have backup quarterbacks for both teams in Florida State. So, with the environment obviously pointing towards the swamp being hard to play in, I think the Gators are live to win this game. Florida State wasn't on my radar to lose, but now they're probably on most people's. And I think that you might want to sprinkle Florida. So my money line sprinkles were TCU for today, Friday, Florida and Minnesota for Saturday. Any opinion on Florida State? And can any of these three teams finally give me a money line sprinkle victory, or should everyone continue fading these three?
Yeah, well, geez, when it comes to the props too for this game, it's tough because with Travis out, with Mertz out, both the starting quarterbacks are out, so you can't find anything on their wide receivers. And, by proxy, you can't find anything on the running backs too. Like there's basically been a prop moratorium on this game. So I don't even really I can't even add anything, for color on that because the injury nature means that we don't have a market. So, if you lean Florida, that's cool. I understand. It's kind of a toss up. Obviously Florida State's the better, confidently the better team. They have been. I think Rodemaker is probably the better backup QB, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, no one agrees. Yeah, I think, this line being as small as it is definitely makes it seem more like a toss-up. And being on the road, it just sets up the spot for Florida to remain competitive. So I'll sprinkle the money line there, getting 2-1 odds or better. And the last time we sprinkled Florida money line, they got the home underdog victory against Tennessee, where they're plus 280. So let's see if they could be our another money maker for us. Where do you want to go in the prop market, Eric?
For the prop market, I will go over to Miami at Boston College. Our boy, TVD, Tyler Van Dyke, has looked better. He's actually, I watched that whole game last week because they played Louisville as close as anybody's played them all year without beating them. And Van Dyke looked a lot better. Like the brace was smaller. It definitely looked like he, was much better health than we had seen him a few weeks beforehand where we were fading him left and right because he just couldn't, he was clearly impaired. With that, I am going over Jacoby George, wide receiver for Miami. Dude, freshman wide receiver, he has been awesome this season. Like in terms of, I know that Restrepo, he's not a freshman, of course, George, but first year really producing. Restrepo has been pretty awesome. I mean, like he's been the nominal slot guy, but man, when they need to make a play, when they need to do something on the outside, it's been Jacoby George. Like he has taken over that role. And each of the past 3 games, he has cleared the 51.5 receiving yards mark. And I don't see any reason with Miami at BC. We've talked about BC, obviously, on this show. That is just a team overall, and specifically a pass defense that has been horrible in terms of pass defense this year. Ranked 125th in the country, 8.3 yards per pass allowed. That's 118th yards per play, 116th, 102nd in EPA per play. All the numbers for BC's defense just scream that they're going to get passed on left and right. I'm going to follow that, and I'm going to take Jacoby George's over.
I love that. I also want to give a shout out to the Pitt Panthers for smacking on Boston College, we said that they would.
Your boys.
Yeah. But, I sadly didn't get a press pass for that game, Eric, but I'm not going to talk too much smack there. But I was pretty upset about that.
You put in for one? They wouldn't?
Yeah, and they said that they were all out of press passes. I said, it's like money.
It's a big game.
We just can't print more, huh?
Buddy.
2-8.
You got to have advance notice for that game. You can't just put in for a press back week up for Boston College Pitt. The fervor of people trying to get into that game.
I almost took Boston College out of spite, but we stuck with Pitt, baby. All right, Eric, one game I was looking at that the last game I'm going to hit on here before I turn it over to you. I'm going to recap my plays after this. Washington State at Washington. I mentioned it earlier. I consider Washington State a lean. If this gets to 17.5 outside of that, I might take it just because it'll be a competitive rivalry game. I don't think the Cougars are terrible as they've been the last 4 or 5 weeks because at the beginning of the season, we were pretty high on Washington State. We were saying this team looks pretty electric. Some injuries kind of set them back. But for Washington now, they're not going to care how much they win by. They're trying to get in and out with a victory after 6 close games in 7 weeks. The Huskies want to make the Pac-12 and look towards Oregon. So Washington State is a lean of mine. And quickly recapping my plays for Friday and Saturday. We're on Michigan money line, Ohio State team total under 21.5. Friday, Iowa versus Nebraska under 25.5. Give it to me. Nebraska money line, and then we're taking the Gophers plus 2.5. So I like my plays back in home teams. I noticed all 5 home teams here being backed in a facet. So I like my plays a lot, Eric. Any opinion on Washington State and Wazoo, and some more plays from you?
Yeah, I mean, 16.5 is a lot, obviously.
It's a lot.
I would probably lean on taking the points for this, but I don't have a particularly strong inclination either way. But, let's go and run through the final props. We're going to go with the Maffa man, Phil Maffa, a guy who I just love. I love him as a running back, and when he gets all the carries, hopefully sticks around next year, because Will Shipley, as I was there at Clemson, he ran out with the seniors for senior day last week against North Carolina, indicating he is leaving for the NFL this year, which means Maffa is going to have the whole show next year. However, this year, he's splitting with Will Shipley. I mean, they're splitting pretty much 50-50, and they're playing at South Carolina this week. I just think with the share of carries, where if they get down, it's going to be a case where you're going to see a lot more of Shipley with his all-purpose acumen than you will of the pounder out of Maffa. At 88.5 receiving yards, that's a big number against an SEC defense, especially if they are in any kind of a trailing position where they have to kind of throw the ball and like I said, go with a little bit more Shipley. I'm taking the under 88.5 receiving yards on the Maffa man, Phil Maffa. Also, I do think the under 37.5 receiving yards for Jake Brenningstool, tight end Clemson at South Carolina, is worth a look too. Cade Klubnik just hasn't, he's been seemingly right around the 200 passing yards mark each week. And with the nature of how they use Brenningstool in short yardage, as a safety valve, that's a lot of yards for a tight end. Under 26.5 receiving yards for Andrew Sawinski, wide receiver, Purdue versus Indiana. Maybe Hudson Card plays. It's still kind of up in the air. He might, but who knows how long he'll last. If they have a backup, that's a big problem. Sawinski hadn't pretty much done anything all year long up until last week. And when he got 29 yards receiving, that's all he's done all year. I'm going with the trend of under 26.5 receiving yards for Sawinski. You got to show it to me, essentially. It's a show me play here. John Reese Plumlee, QB UCF at Houston, 18.5 completions he's listed under. He's cleared that once out of the past 7 games, 18.5 completions. That's just not what Gus Malzahn does. They run the ball with Harvey, they'll run the ball with Plumlee, and then they will throw the deep shots on the outside to Baker or Hudson. They're not going sequentially down the field by, marching it with 5-yard passes and quick hitches. They're running it or they're going deep. It doesn't lead to 19 completions. I love that one from Plumlee. And then last one, we will go with Demir Blankumsey, wide receiver, Memphis versus Tulane. 62.5 receiving yards for Blankumsey. He has killed that each of the past 4 weeks. Memphis, Seth Hennigan, veteran, quarterback against Temple's horrific pass defense, one of the worst 10 pass defenses in the country. I just think Memphis is going to be able to do whatever they want all game. And with Blankumsey pretty much guaranteed to get 8 targets, that should be a pretty easy over for that 62.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to say Temple's defense isn't scaring anybody, my man. They've been in so many shootouts. I think they're allowing almost 37 or 38 points per game or something like that when I looked last week.
And they throw.
It's been
they
pretty
throw
wild
all the time. They just constantly they'll put out 40, 50 times a game. EJ Warner's throwing. So all the quick script, everything means we'll get some. Hopefully they'll score a little bit on Memphis, who has a pretty porous defense as well, because that's what gets us over. Competitive games is what we like.
Yeah, and I'll admit the Maffa play too is money. I love that play absolutely here. Before we get out of here, we'll say this will be available all day today, Friday, all day Saturday as well for everyone listening. Recap, get all our plays. So Brad, we know you'll be back next week, but if you missed any plays like the play on Bucky, you can go ahead and watch this on replay. So we'll answer one more question before we get out of here. Eric, Thorne under 25.5 rushing yards against Penn State.
Yeah, he mentions the boot. Yeah, he was banged up this week. So that's really intriguing. What kept me off of it, as far as a show play, is if you look at it, he's been clearing that. Like they do a pretty good amount of running with Thorne. I'm obviously not off the top of my head. I'm looking it up, but he's typically in that 30 to 40 running yards range. Pretty much every week. I know he's in a boot, but it's like 38, 88, 40, 38, 34, 27, 92. Like you have to go back to A&M on September 23rd to find a spot where he hasn't cleared this mark. Obviously, hey, injury speculation is injury speculation. And if he's out there walking around in a boot, it's going to be tough to run much. Don't mind if you go with the speculative play, but I personally laid off simply because of how often he's hit it in each of his last 7 games. But hey, if he's injured, he's injured.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there too. 1 or 2 sacks in that game will take him quite under that number. We know Penn State's going to get after him. So we appreciate everyone joining in today to get our picks and plays, everyone that's making money with us all season. Hope you have a great Black Friday. As a reminder, though, next week we'll be back for conference championship season. Brad Thomas will be joining us. We can't wait. We'll have Miami and Toledo. We'll have Georgia, Alabama, Louisville, Florida State. And those are the 3 that we know. And we'll find out on Saturday who's playing Iowa in the Big Ten championship. But I have a feeling it's going to be Michigan. Eric thinks it'll be Ohio State. Whatever, my friend.
Buddy. We'll see.
We will see. All right, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week.